MTA members, great to see you tonight. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes to get started.
Sir,
4:30.
4:30?
Yeah.
Just in the nick of time.
Welcome, MTA members. As you're flowing in, we will get started at precisely 4:33, just to make sure, because I see the numbers keep slowly ticking up. And I will say that as you're, I will say this again as well, this meeting will be recorded, and we actually use that to be able to, for those who couldn't make either yesterday or today, a chance to hear all the presentations. So this will be available at the website. You will hear at least 10 times today, but it's very important, massteacher.org/annual meeting, where all the information for annual meeting will be stored. And if you are waiting and eager to have this beautiful background that includes our new logo and our new tagline, a diverse union of education workers, I believe one of our staff will put that in the chat. You can download that and use that with your other Zoom meetings. Thank you, Olivia. Okay, it's 4:33. Let's get going. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Max Page, MTA President, and I have here Deb McCarthy. Deb, do you want to say hello, our Vice President?
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Great. And we have a whole team helping us out here. There's Mike Fatal, our Executive Director Treasurer, Ricardo Rosa, Deputy Executive Director Treasurer, Jennifer Freeling, Director of Governance, and then our staff from Governance and Training and Professional Learning, Olivia Osiki, Jamila Malcolm, Eileen Pitts, Lexmar Pena, and Anne-Marie Kelly. Thank you all for helping out. They're making this all go flawlessly as they did yesterday at our first pre-convention meeting. So this is our second and final one. And if I may, just to get a sense of who we have here with us, can you, if you are a first-time delegate to annual meeting, could you in some way raise your hand, ideally with the react button, because that's great. And you are getting my applause and lots of people's applause. Wow, look at that. That's great. That's terrific. I'm so glad you're here. Keep going. We will also recognize you at annual meeting. And if you're needing a pick-me-up, you will get a great cheer of solidarity and support from the entire annual meeting. Okay, so those who are new may not know exactly this. This is our 181st annual meeting. It's the largest annual Democratic gathering in Massachusetts. And I would say that matters more than ever right now. And I probably say this again at annual meeting. It's democracy is not voting in November. Democracy is being in a union and enacting your union by participating in the democratic work of our union. And the annual meeting is the highest body in the Massachusetts Teachers Association. So you're showing up, you're debating, and you're voting at that meeting is enacting democracy at a moment when we need to show how democracy works and thrives. And that 181 number should be you should realize that's a pretty large one. I noted that 1845, that's when Texas was admitted into the Union. It was actually the year of the first override of a presidential veto. And on November 24th, 1845, in Worcester, the MTA was founded. And I actually looked this up, that it was the Essex County Teachers Association that asked to form a statewide union. And others felt that was a great idea, but they insisted that they meet in the middle of the state so that people in Western Mass didn't have to travel as far. Speaking from Amherst, I appreciated that sentiment. So that's where it was founded. We were founded in 1845, November 24th. So this has been going on for a very, very long time. And tonight we will learn about the annual meeting, how it's going to work. Also hear a presentation about the budget and bylaws and resolutions, and also hear from all the varied candidates who are up for election. Two things I do need to say to you now, since we have on this screen many members here tonight. Two things. One is there is another very important meeting tomorrow evening, and I think I'm urging you to register for the May Day meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. It'll be no longer than an hour, but it is a chance for you to learn what is happening throughout the state on May Day, May 1st, which is International Workers' Day. We want every member to take some action. Ideally, it's participated in one of the organized rallies and marches, but it can also be locals taking action. You'll hear a lot about that tomorrow night, all the things that are going on, all the resources we have for you. This is another important moment where we gather together to defend public education and defend people over billionaires. So please sign up for that. I believe that is also in the chat. The other thing is that the state budget, or the House version of the state budget, came out today. It was eagerly anticipated because of the incredible fiscal crisis all over the state. We hear on a daily basis about potential and real cuts that are threatened, overrides, Prop 2.5 overrides that are succeeding, and unfortunately also ones that are failing. And unfortunately, South Hadley had some terrible news last night, in that their override did not pass. What that means is we have to demand from our state government that they do better to protect our public schools and colleges. There was some good news in the House budget today. We'll fill it out and we'll send it out. We'll fill out a full memo. We will send it to all members. There is some good news, but it's not nearly enough what you all need and deserve for the schools and colleges that you help lead. What I want to encourage you is to get involved. And if you, in the chat, I believe, is a link to sign up for the next Fiscal Crisis Action Team on May 18th. This is a group that has been gathering to plan actions, develop testimonies, help to bring together our force on Beacon Hill so that we get a state budget that we need. So please sign up for that and be ready for that. And there will be, just give you a preview, that we will have at annual meeting an issues forum around the fiscal crisis, and there will be postcards we're going to ask you to write personal stories on that will go right to legislators, because they'll still be in the middle of this budget debate that begins back in January, really, and then goes all the way through June. So please, May Day strong, May Day meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And then also sign up to get further involved in the fight to protect the budgets of our public schools and colleges. Okay, and I've said, maybe at the beginning, I said there's also a chance if you'd like to download this Zoom, please do that. And I mentioned as well, but some others may have flowed in, that this is being recorded. We'd like to share these on the massteacher.org/annual meeting website so that others, you can review it again, or you can share it with other delegates who were unable to make either yesterday or today. Okay, we have so much business to conduct this year, as always. It looks like to be a banner year of attendance, as well as the range of business that we will undertake. As a reminder, we're going to have 3 different ways you could participate. One is the in-person meeting space by traditional seating by region. We obviously urge everyone to take that option if they at all can. It is just an outstanding way to see a democracy in action. The second is a mask required seating section on site for masked delegates. So it's in the same room in the Heinz Auditorium, but it's to the side of the room. And it's in that section, you will have to wear a mask. And there will be a mic for nearby so that you can participate fully in the debate. And finally, there will be a virtual option. And that provides, as many of you know and have taken advantage of, full participation and access to annual meeting. You participate in debates and you vote just like everyone else. And as I mentioned before, we'll have debates over the standing rules and bylaws and resolutions and new business items. I will call those NBIs from now on for the new people. Those are items that you can propose now up to the up to the very beginning of the meeting. There will be, and I think our chair of bylaws and rules, Jackie Gorey, will explain this later, so I won't go into details now, but we will be having a vote on taking what we had as special rules for the operation of the meeting and creating them as permanent standing rules to adopt the fact that, at least for now, the board has adopted that we will maintain the hybrid option for our annual meeting. So you'll hear that as standing rule proposal number 1 a little bit later. All right. Let's get right into this. Let me introduce Jen Freeling to talk about the logistics of participation in this meeting.
Yes. Thank you, Max. Hi, all. I'm Jen Freeling. I'm the Director of Governance for MTA, and I have some information to share with you. All right. Hopefully my screen is sharing. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm excuse me. I'm going to go over some rules, or not rules, but guidelines for tonight's meeting and share some information about annual meeting and details leading up to annual meeting. So tonight, we don't have any special rules or standing rules that govern this meeting, but this is not a meeting for debate. This is a meeting for receiving information, asking questions about the business that will be before you at annual meeting. So please do your best to refrain from debate. In order to speak, you must first be recognized by the chair. In order to speak tonight, you must first be recognized by the chair. And if you'd like to speak, you're going to use the raise hand feature in the reactions, the react button in your Zoom window. If you're on a cell phone, you should be able to find the raise hand option in the More tab of your Zoom window on your phone. We ask again that you only ask questions and not enter into debate. It says Deb is going to manage the speaking order, but I'm actually going to manage it for so that when Deb is speaking about other things, I can manage it for her. And we're going to keep you muted and only unmute you when you're called on to speak. For any technical issues tonight, please email events@massteacher.org. You can also put into the chat that will go to only hosts any tech issues that you might be having. And in case you don't have these dates baked into your brain like I do, annual meeting will be on Friday, May 8th, starting at noon, and will go approximately till 5:30 when we will recess. And then we will resume on Saturday, May 9th, starting at 9 a.m. and we'll go until you all close business. After close of business on Saturday, there will be a rally and march that I think will be particularly meaningful for all of us. The details of that march and rally are still being worked out. So more information coming soon. Then registration at annual meeting opens on Friday at 10 a.m. and on Saturday at 8 a.m. You'll hear us say this quite a bit today. All information related to annual meeting will be, most of it is, and more will be added to the website massteacher.org/annual meeting. And we will be producing a delegate handbook that will be mailed to remote delegates, posted on the website, and available on site for in-person delegates. That is in process right now. All right, lots of deadlines to share related to new business items. The first of which is Monday, May 4th at 5 p.m. New business items with policy implications must be submitted by that time. It's also helpful if other MBIs are submitted by that time, because then we can have them printed and distributed to delegates in person at annual meeting in hard copy form. New business items with budgetary implications must be submitted by either that Monday or no later than prior to the conclusion of the business session on Friday at annual meeting. And that's so that they may be acted upon prior to the adoption of the budget, which occurs on Saturday morning. New business items with budgetary implications are considered in the order in which they're received, but before new business items without budgetary implications. And other new business without budgetary implications may be submitted during the meeting up until the end of the first hour on Saturday morning, which is approximately 10 a.m., but 1 hour after gavel down. And they'll be considered in the order in which they are received. Okay, so for those of you who may not have pre-registered, won your election, were reported by your president, but may not have pre-registered, please do so before May 1st. And that's important because it will identify whether you are attending in person or as a remote delegate. If you don't get that in to us before May 1st, we will automatically register you as a remote delegate. And for those local presidents in the House, the final day for local presidents to report any delegates or alternates is May 1st. Right, this is important. For remote delegates, there will be a Test Your Tech training on Monday, May 4th from 5 to 6 p.m. We highly encourage remote delegates to attend this training to familiarize yourselves with the virtual platform, to take some test votes, really work through how the technology works. So please mark that on your calendars. More information about that will be forthcoming. Just keep in mind for those delegates who will be virtual, you will need to use a computer or a laptop. PCs, Macs, Chromebooks can be used. We encourage you strongly to use the Chrome internet browser. That seems to be the best browser that the platform works in. And you cannot use a smartphone or a tablet. The functionality will not work. And then at annual meeting, to access the speaking queue, we're going to walk through how to do that. Remote delegates will use the platform that they're viewing the meeting on to seek recognition. And for delegates in person to enter the speaking queue, they will approach a microphone in the meeting room, and there will be an MTA staff person assigned at each microphone. If you give that person your name and what color you will be speaking on, they'll enter you into the speaking order. This year, there'll be a drop down for that, so it's a little bit easier. It'll be red, green, yellow, question, yellow, point of order, or yellow, point of personal privilege. And we do always ask that points of personal privilege are saved till the end of the meeting. The presiding officer with the parliamentarian will keep the speaking order during annual meeting, and will follow the rules, the standing rules, which require alternating between positions. We're developing 2 voting guides for delegates, one for in-person delegates and one for remote delegates. It's important for those who are in person to know that you will get a smart card, or otherwise known as a unique voting card, at registration, and that will be used in the voting devices in the meeting room. And that includes all of the elections. That voting card is unique to you, and it's very important that you keep it on you at all times. You must have it to participate in any voting at annual meeting. If you lose it or forget it on Saturday morning, for instance, please be prepared for a delay. It will take us time to deactivate your old card and activate a new card for you. Remote delegates will use the online platform for all voting on action items, and also voting in the elections. Again, remote delegates, we highly encourage you to attend the Test Your Tech training. There's no need for tellers or teller counts because we have the system that will do our voting counts for us. And as a reminder, elections during annual meeting will take place on Saturday, May 9th, during the business session at 11 a.m. unless action on the budget has not concluded by 11 a.m., in which case elections will commence immediately after the budget. And that is all from me, Max. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen. And there will, as you saw, there will be lots more opportunities to get training on how it works. But I think it's all worked out pretty flawlessly, this new system. I see Rosa Lopez Whitehill has a question. Go ahead, Rosa.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking my question. Jen, have all the makers of motions been notified? I submitted an MBI and I haven't heard anything back yet.
Notified of what, Rosa?
Well, that the MBI is going to be heard. I didn't see it on the website. I know that they're starting to post. Are
Yeah,
we
good
notified
question.
when something posts?
No, we don't generally notify you when it posts, but we do have an internal process that we go through for costing and putting the staff hours. So I don't have your MBI right in front of me, but that's likely why it hasn't been posted yet. So it will be posted soon. We're working through that process now. Odds are yours is one with a budgetary implication and is why, or at least a cost, which is why it hasn't been posted yet, but it will be shortly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, without further ado, I believe we now will turn to a presentation of the budget by our Vice President, Deb McCarthy. And just as a reminder, that Deb will make the presentation, and then we'll have a chance for as many questions as you have, but I want to underline.
Anything.
Thank you. But I want to underline the word questions. We will have ample time at annual meeting to both ask questions, but then we will be debating the budget and ultimately voting on it. So this really is about clarifying for yourself and your union siblings here questions you have about the budget. All right. Sound good? Deb, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And I'll wait a second until they pull up the slideshow. Perfect. All right. So I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. And when I'm finished with this PowerPoint presentation, we will have the opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have. Before I begin, I would like to first recognize members of the Advisory Budget Committee, often referred to as the ABC. We have Barry Davis and Cynthia Roy, who are elected representatives from the Executive Committee, Deb Gesualdo and Chris Maroney, who are elected members from the board. And then we have the following members, who were appointed by the president of the MTA, Joanna Gonzalez, Nellie Taylor, I apologize, I have something caught in my throat, Deborah Place, Sarah McLaughlin, and Fran Frederick. Max and I are on the committee, and we are also joined by Mike Fadel, Ricardo Rosa, Beth Evers, and Ann McGuire. Thank you. What's just happened here? I would like to first go over some key terms, processes, and timelines so that you have a better understanding on how the budget is created, the various iterations that have happened along the way, before going to the highest governing board of the MTA, you, our delegates, at annual meeting for a vote. The budget is dependent on two main factors: the number of full-time equivalent members, often referred to as FTEs, and the dues assessment applied to those who are full-time members. There are three categories of membership, and the three rates of dues are assessed based upon the category that you are in. The first category is our full-time members, known as FTEs. The second category is for our clerical and custodians who pay 60% of the FTE dues. And our third category is for paraprofessional, food service personnel, and other ESPs who pay 30% of the full-time equivalent dues. Yes, the chief. Okay, thank you. This year, there were some key changes made prior to the first meeting of the ABC that are important to mention before discussing the timeline. There was an increase of $581,933 due to step increases and an added position that was voted on by the Board of Directors. There was $450,000 added to a new line item to build reserves over the long term so that we can have resources available for major campaigns. And additionally, there was a reduction of $2.5 million from the overfunded contributions to staff pensions, along with a reduction in savings of $200,000 in costs associated with rent. Let's discuss the timeline. In October, the Board of Directors votes on the budget recommendations that were brought forward by a vote from the Executive Committee. And these priorities are then provided to the managerial team for them to use in preparation for their individual budget meetings that are held in December with myself, Mike Fado, Beth Evers, and Ricardo Rosa. A budget template is created, and this document is presented to the Advisory Budget Committee. After the ABC reviews and deliberates, their motion is brought to the Executive Committee, who met in February. The Executive Committee has the opportunity to review, to make changes, and then to vote on a motion to bring forward to the Board of Directors for their meeting in March. The Board of Directors likewise reviews the budget in front of them, deliberates, and makes changes for the final motion that will be brought forward to the delegates at annual meeting. I'm now going to discuss the changes that happened along the way in the timeline. In February, the ABC was presented a budget template that asked for a $5 dues increase for our full-time equivalents, $3 and $1.50 dues increase respectively for the three other categories, for an operating budget of $58,168,517 that was based on a full-time equivalent count of 90,000 members. The ABC voted to also return the word Alana into the narrative for line item 26 and to add the words Center Social, Racial, and Economic Justice to the narratives for line items 26 and 38. There was also a motion that passed to add $63,000 to the budget to reflect the proposed bylaw changes being brought to annual meeting from the Retired Members Committee. There was a vote to restore $150,000 to line item 38 and to add $400,000 to line item 26 for all-in grants. The ABC voted to bring forth a motion to the Executive Committee that asked for a $13 dues increase based on an operating budget of $58,882,351 based on a full-time equivalent of 89,990 members, and to maintain the same due structure in place from the PR&O operating budget from last year. Thank you. At the Executive Committee meeting, there was a motion to move monies within line items in the budget to cover the salary for newly created position of membership clerk that the board of directors voted to create at their February meeting. There was no change made to the $13 suggested dues structure and no change made to the suggested dues for the PR&O budget. Thank you. At the board meeting in March, there was a motion to move $400,000 within line items towards, $40,000, not 400, $40,000 towards the upcoming LGBTQ plus conference in October. And there was also a motion made and passed to increase the PR&O dues by $10. This resulted in a motion being voted on for a dues increase of $13 and an operating budget of $58,882,351 based on a full-time equivalent of 89,990 members and a PR&O budget proposal for a $10 increase that would now have a budget of $2,699,700. She changed it? Yep. So that you can see how this impacts the three different levels. And I just need to pull up the slide so I can see it here. Thank you. You will see that if you are a member who is a full-time equivalent, there was a $13 dues increase plus the $10 dues increase for a total of $23, which would bring your annual assessment to $596. For those members in the secretary, clerks, and custodians category, it would be a $7.75 increase to the operating dues, $6 increase to the PR&O dues for a total of $13.75 increase, and a $357.75 annual assessment. For all other ESPs, there would be a $4 increase for the operating dues, a $3 increase to PR&O for a total of $7 increased for a yearly payment of $179,000. All right, thank you. At the back of your budget book, there is a section that is titled FY 1998, FY 2027 that reflects the data that is on this slide in front of you. In 2000, the MTA average teacher salary was $46,580, and the dues were 0.64% of this annual salary. In 25 years' time, the average teacher salary has increased by $52,054, and dues as a percentage of the annual salary is at 58.58%. Additionally, the MTA average teacher salaries are the third highest in the country, and our dues are the 12th highest behind NEA peer states like New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And with that, we can stop the slideshow, and now will be the time that we can take your questions. And thank you for whoever was running that slideshow. Much appreciated.
And it'll be much easier if
Just
you
a reminder.
raise your hand feature, right? Thanks, sir.
What I was going to say. Thanks, Max.
Oh, it's quite possible that there were so many questions that were answered last night. Ah, here we go. We've got somebody's hand.
Cindy Gushy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi, Deb, where in the budget book was that comparison between the last slide that you showed? Where in the budget book is that?
Yep, so that is on page 130. of the budget book?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Nora?
Hi, Deb. I would like
Hi.
to know, hello. I would like to know about the retirees because I came in yesterday very late. So I missed that.
Okay.
And also you went a little too fast for when you were showing the budget. I have the full-time employees, secretaries and clerical, but the other ones, ESPs, I didn't get that. I just wanted to take note on that.
Okay, so we want to go back to that slide? Can we
Yes,
pull
please.
that
I can
up?
take notes on that and then you can answer the question about retirees if you don't mind.
Sure. Is there a way to pull up that slide? I can pull it up. Okay, because that would be helpful. And I'm sorry if I went too fast.
Thank you.
So retirees, their dues is set by a bylaw,
Mm-hmm.
and it is $30. There is a bylaw proposal being brought forth at annual meeting that the retiree committee brought forward.
Uh-huh.
But currently, retirees are assessed a $30 dues. And here's that slide for you.
Thank you. I got it. Yep.
Okay, so can you see here can you see it?
I see. Yes, I just needed the ESPs. I didn't have the increase how much
It's
it was gonna be.
okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So
Andre.
the retirees, you said it's gonna be $30. That's a proposal?
There is a proposal that has been brought forward as a bylaw change to annual meeting, and I believe that will be discussed during the bylaws, right? That is asking that the first year of a retiree's membership in the MTA be covered by the MTA. But currently, right now, the bylaw says that retirees are assessed $30 and then they pay $35 to the NEA.
Oh, okay. So 65 in total. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Andre?
Thanks, Deb. I don't mean to debate, but I do want to clarify, if I may.
Sure.
The proposal to offer the first year's membership in retired status for everyone is not a bylaw proposal. That is in the budget. The bylaw proposal is related to the attempt to change the dues and make them $5 higher for classroom teachers and $5 lower for ESPs.
Thank you.
And so those exist independently. We could have regardless of outcome. I trust
Thank
I
you.
haven't violated the spirit of your rules for this meeting. Thank you.
Andre, you would never violate anybody's spirit. All right. Nancy?
Hi. So I am a retiree, and I guess there's two proposals for raising retiree dues. Both of them seem extremely modest. Do we know the actual cost of the retiree program? I see in the book we have our own organizer. And how does that compare to the revenue that comes from retirees?
Can you ask that question again? What's the cost for the organizer for the retirees?
Well, what's the cost of the whole program for retirees compared to what revenue actually comes in from retirees?
Well, there was an addition of $63,000 to the budget that reflects the revenue coming in from retirees' dues. Now, if you were asking me to make an assessment on the program and the contributions from the retired members, as was Demoria's at the State House with the mentoring program, I would say it's priceless. I can't put an assessment on that. Elaine? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Hello.
Hi.
Could we go back to that slide yet again? And I think there's something I don't understand.
Okay.
Because my arithmetic says that 13 and 10 is 23, but then the difference is 30, not 23 on that slide. Maybe I don't understand what I'm seeing.
Okay. I'm just going to wait for them to pull it up and let me just walk through it with you.
Okay. So the $13 increase plus the $10 increase would be $23. That I get, right?
Yeah.
So what is, oh,
That's for full-time equivalents?
okay, so that the $10 increase is going to be increased, wait a second.
Because it was $20. Currently, prior to the motion being made at the board, the assessment for PRNO is 20. Okay?
I get it. I get it.
It's all right.
I got it. It went by too fast for me too.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, and I apologize.
No,
I
no,
think,
no. It's
knowing
okay.
like how much time last night's meeting, I probably went too fast. So thank you for calling me out on it. Carolyn? Although, where'd she go?
Unmute. Yeah, no, I was having the same problem with like Elaine. I just was trying to figure out how 23, how those numbers came, because the one above, it's at the 30 instead of the 23, and I noticed that number went across all the way across. That was just kind of like the math wasn't mathing.
Okay. Do you understand now?
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Deb, if I could just jump in, and this may be silly, but since we have a lot of new people, and I do get this question every year, this is, of course, that 23, if it went through exactly as proposed at the moment, is 23 over the course of the whole year, just to be clear. Sometimes people say, oh, is that every pay period? Or so obviously, I mean, I hope that's obvious, but just want to be clear.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't see any more hands. I actually didn't just see Carolyn either. For some reason, her square disappeared on my screen. So I just want to make sure, is there any other hands raised?
Nope, I don't see any either, Deb.
Okay. And as always, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to send me an email at dmccarthy@massteacher.org. I think it's really important that every delegate is educated and has the information necessary to engage in debate around the budget at annual meeting. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Deb. Thanks for all the questions, friends. We also had a bunch tomorrow, so that all these will get answered. All right, we are moving now right along. And so I want to invite Jackie Gorey to present the proposed amendments to the MTA standing rules and bylaws for 2026.
Great. Thank you, Max. And hi, everyone who's out there today. Thanks for being here. The Bylaws and Rules Committee that met twice this year on Zoom, one in November and once in February. Members of the committee are Carolyn Pasha, Marianne Dufemia, Sue Doherty, Ramsey Curdy, Daniel Mulcair, Jackie Perkins, Adam St. Jean, Robert Williams, and myself. We met to discuss, hold hearings, and vote on proposed amendments to the standing rules and to the bylaws, which were submitted to the committee by the second Friday in January, which was January 9th. We had 4 proposed standing rules and 11 proposed bylaw amendments submitted by this deadline. Today, I'll present these proposals to you, along with the impact statement, the committee recommendation, and the board of directors recommendations for each proposal. You'll find these items in your pre-convention materials. So let's begin with the standing rules for annual meeting 2026. Max talked a little bit about standing rule amendment number 1, which would transition the annual meeting special rules that we've been using forever into the permanent standing rules. Our special rules extend way back to 2020 and 2021 when we were fully, if you can remember, fully remote because of the pandemic. And the special rules were adopted following that and used for our hybrid meetings in 2022 and 2023, 2024, and 2025. So by transitioning these special rules into the permanent standing rules, our rules would accommodate any variation of any hybrid meeting that we would need to use in the future. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption of these changes by a vote of 6-0. The MTA Board recommends adoption of these changes at its December board meeting. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that. Okay, let's move on to Standing Rule Amendment number 2. Standing Rule Amendment number 2 is Rule number 6, Order of Business and Debate, Sections 2 and 3. And what the impact would be, the presentation of awards would move from the first day of business to new business items from the budgetary implications would move to the position where the awards were on the second day of business. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommended adoption of this proposal by a vote of 8-0, and the Board of Directors recommended adoption by a vote of 63-0. Okay, proposed standing rule amendment to the standing rules number 2. Rule 6, Order of Business and Debate, Section 6 and 15. And the impact would be a time limit while speaking in debate would be reduced from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. And the number of yellow cards considered prior to debate would be reduced from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. To 3 cards, excuse me. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption by a vote of 8-0, and the board recommends adoption by a vote of 43-14. Proposed bylaw standing rule amendment number 4, Rule 6, Order of Business and Debate, Section 11, New Business Items. The impact statement. On the first meeting day, 60 minutes would be dedicated to new business items, 30 minutes to items with budgetary implications, and 30 minutes to items without. The deadline for submitting new business items with budgetary implications would be the Monday prior to the annual meeting, instead of at the conclusion of the first day of business. The deadline for submitting new business items without budgetary implications would be 5 p.m. on the first day of business, instead of the first hour on the second day of business. New business items without budgetary implications would be considered for a minimum of 90 minutes on the second meeting day. Any new business items not acted upon or referred would not expire, but instead would be going to the Board of Directors, and the makers of the motions would be given the opportunity to address the board. Any planned solidarity actions would commence at 5 p.m. or at the close of business, whichever comes first, on either the first or second meeting day. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption by a vote of 7-1, and the board recommends adoption by a vote of 41-7. And that concludes the submissions for standing rules. And just to remind everyone, when we take a vote on the standing rules at annual meeting, it's a simple majority needed to pass those standing rules, if that's the case. Now, coming up next will be the proposed bylaws. Now, that'll be different in adoption. A proposed bylaw amendment, in order to be adopted, needs a 2/3 vote of those voting. So I'll begin with, of course, proposed bylaw amendment number 1. It proposes a change to Article 4, Finance, Section 2, Dues, C, Retired Members. And the impact statement is the MTA dues of retired members who pay annually would increase from $30 to $35, and the MTA dues for retired ESP members who pay annually would decrease from $30 to $25. This was discussed a little bit earlier. This is one of 2 proposals about retired dues. You'll see the other one coming up later. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption 8-0, and the board recommends adoption by a vote of 59-0. Proposed bylaw amendment number 2 would amend Article 3 membership, Section 3 individual membership, additional categories A2. And the impact would be for retired membership, the requirement of being an active member for at least 5 consecutive years immediately prior to retirement would be removed and replaced with a requirement of being an active member for any 5 years prior to retirement. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends not to adopt by a vote of 7-1, and the Board of Directors voted not to recommend as well by a vote of 37-18. Okay. Proposed bylaw amendment number 3 would amend Article 5, Governance, President, Vice President, Executive Director, Treasurer, Section 3, Executive Director, Treasurer, B and E. And it would impact the duties of the Executive Director, Treasurer. They would be revised such that the duty to supervise and coordinate would be as directed by the President and the Board of Directors, and the duty to direct the employee staff would be in accordance with the direction from the President. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommended not to adopt this bylaw by a vote of 5-3, and the Board recommended not to adopt this bylaw by a vote of 43-16. Proposed bylaw amendment number 4 would amend Article 5, Governance, President, Vice President, Executive Director, Treasurer, and Section 3, Executive Director, Treasurer. And the impact would be that under the duties of the Executive Director, Treasurer, the new bullet would state that the duties listed would not limit the budgetary decision-making of the annual meeting of delegates. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommended adoption by a vote of 8-0, and the Board recommends not to adopt by a vote of 39-18. And I just wanted to point out in your documents that you may be looking at, it says both of those were recorded adoptions or not adoptions by the Bylaws and Rules. Obviously, the first one with only 8 votes is from the Bylaws and Rules Committee, and the second one should be from the Board of Directors, recommending not to adopt by a vote of 39-18. I just wanted to point that out to you. Just, it'll be corrected in your documents that you get from annual meeting. Okay. Proposed bylaw amendment number 5 would amend Article 7, Nominations, Elections, and Term of Office, Section 2, President and Vice President, Section 3, Elections, and it would also amend Article 9, Delegate Meetings, Section 2, Delegates and Duties. The impact would be that the election for MTA President and Vice President would be removed from the annual meeting of delegates and replaced with an election by direct vote of the MTA membership. The direct election would be conducted with electronic ballot from the second Monday in April through the following Sunday. A candidate would need a majority to be elected, and any necessary runoff election would be among the 2 highest vote getters, conducted as a direct vote of the MTA membership via electronic ballot from the first Monday in May through the following Sunday. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption by a vote of 5-3. The Board of Directors recommends adoption by a vote of 38-18. Proposed bylaw amendment number 6 would amend Article 4, Finance, Section 1, Budget C. The impact would be that the threshold for approving the budget would change from a simple majority to a 2/3 majority. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends not to adopt this bylaw by a vote of 8-0, and the Board recommends not to adopt the bylaw by a vote of 63-0. Proposed bylaw amendment would be, the next one is number 7, and it would amend Article 10, Committees. And the impact would be that a membership engagement committee would be established with specific composition and duties. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption by a vote of 5-3, and the Board of Directors recommends not to adopt by a vote of 43-11. Proposed bylaw amendment number 8 would amend Article 9, Delegate Meetings, Section 5, Voting D. And the impact would be that retired delegates to annual meeting would not be eligible to vote on any items with budgetary or financial implications. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommended rejection by a vote of 8-0, and the Board of Directors recommended rejection by a vote of 54-1. And the next proposal is the second proposal that deals with retiree dues that was brought up earlier in the budget presentation. So its proposed bylaw amendment number 9 would amend Article 4 Finance, Section 2 Dues Retired Membership. And the impact would be that the MTA dues for retired members who pay annually would increase from $30 to $50. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends rejection not to adopt by a vote of 8-0, and the Board of Directors recommends not to adopt by a vote of 61-0. Proposed bylaw amendment number 10 would amend Article 6, Governance, Executive Committee and Board of Directors, Section 2, Board of Directors, Composition 1, and also Article 7, Nominations, Elections, and Terms of Office. The impact would be that a new seat would be created on the MTA Board of Directors, the at-large seat for early career educators. It would be established. Members within their first 5 years as educators would be eligible to run for this seat to be elected at the annual meeting by all delegates with nomination and election processes, terms of office, and the manner of handling vacancies as specified. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends adoption by a vote of 8-0. The Board of Directors recommended adoption by a vote of 34-20. And the final bylaw proposal, number 11, would amend Article 7, Nominations, Elections, and Terms of Office, Section 2, President and Vice President, C, Election 2. The impact would be that the election of the MTA President and Vice President would be removed from the annual meeting of delegates. The offices of President and Vice President would be elected by a direct vote of the MTA membership. A majority would be required, and a runoff among the top 2 vote getters would take place if a majority was not achieved on the first ballot. The Bylaws and Rules Committee recommends rejection or not to adopt by a vote of 6-2, and the board took no position on this final bylaw amendment. And that's the end of it. I don't know if there are any questions. If not.
Thank you, Jackie. Before we go to questions, I did want to note that the board on the 2 bylaw proposals related to one person, one vote, the Board of Directors asked that a 2019 report on this very question be made available, I think both in print and online, to delegates. So I think they're going to be print on site, and I think it's supposed to be online, but Jen, I apologize, I can't find it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can put the link to it in the chat directly.
It's online under the report section of the annual meeting webpage, massteacher.org/annual meeting.
Right. Thank you, Max, for reminding me of that, because that's exactly what happened.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there questions? I do see that. So Jenna, you'll handle those, Joe Heresy.
Joe.
Am I called upon? Yes.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I did have a question about what Max just pointed to. There are 2 proposals about having one person, one vote. I could go look it up. I understand that there is paperwork, but I thought here at the meeting it would be good to distinguish between the 2, because one got voted down, as I understand it, and one got voted in favor.
Right.
On both the board and the executive board. So could someone quickly outline the differences between the 2?
Sure,
Thanks.
I can do that for you, Joe. Thanks for the question. First of all, if you just look at the proposals side by side, You can see one is very detailed and the second one was not very detailed. So the board of the Bylaws and Rules Committee voted to recommend the first one because there was more detail to it. And the second one did not have as much detail, so they thought, we went with the first one. We're not going to go with this one, except two members of the Bylaws and Rules Committee said we're going to stick with it because it was the principle of the one person, one vote that we supported. As for the board of directors, they voted to recommend the first time and voted to take no position the second time, so as to try and clarify the confusion that might come up at this meeting. And you just brought that confusion to our forefront. So that's why that happened in that way. Okay. Any other question? Great. No question? Yeah. Thank you. Well, we made it.
There is one more before you finish.
Richard J.
Yeah, it's minuscule, but on bylaw amendment 9, the figure I had for the board of directors on what I got printed out was 56-1, and you stated it was 61-0.
61-0 was what I had.
Okay,
so Jen, if we could check that. Yeah.
56-1 is the correct vote.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Richard.
All right, Jackie, we have Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, hello. How are you?
I couldn't find my hand. Tell me where that document is about 2019. I want to read that prior study, and I just can't find it.
We're going to put it in the chat, but it is under reports on that page. You may have to click more. There's like listed a couple, and you have to click the little button that says more, but I think, yeah, Jen just posted it in the...
So it's probably the 2020 final report of the election bylaw?
That's correct.
Okay, sorry, I heard 2019, and that's as far as my brain went.
My apologies. Yeah.
No. Thanks, you guys.
And it's in the chat now. Thank you. All right. Well, then no further questions. Then we will move on.
Right. And I just wanted to thank you, Max, and thank you, Deb, and ask everyone who participated to thank them as well for their questions. But mostly I'd like to thank Jen Freeling and John Connolly and Laurie Houle and Ryan Leach for their guidance and their expertise in helping the committee. They're just a joy to work with. So thanks, everyone, and see you in Boston.
Thank you very much, Jackie. All right. The next part of our agenda is proposed amendments to the MTA resolutions. For those, again, I realize there's lots of new people here. Resolutions are our kind of value statements, but they're not just there that sit in a drawer. They are then animate the kinds of priorities we set. They are key to when we decide whether we're going to support a bill or how we do our legislative agenda. We look to our resolutions. So this is a very important document as well for our union. And I want to introduce Deb Gesualdo from the Resolutions Committee to present the proposed resolutions for this year.
Thank you, Max, and thank you everyone for being on at what is the end of an already long day. I'm Deb Gesualdo, Chair of the MTA Resolutions Committee. To begin with, I would like to thank the members of our committee and the MTA staff assigned to the committee for their work. Connor Burgoyne from the Tewksbury Teachers Association, Joanna Gonzalez from the Mass State College Association at Salem State, Penelope Genuine from the Attleboro Education Association, Keith Machon from the Fall River Educators Association and member of the MTA Board of Directors, our staff consultant, Mary McDonald, and our staff assistant, Laura Mullen. So before we jump into the amendments, I want to briefly ground us in where we are in the process. We did not receive any new resolution or amendment proposals this year, but because last year's annual meeting adjourned before we reached this section of the agenda, the two proposed resolutions from 2025 will be before us again. So again, for those who are new or just need a quick refresher, as Max said, resolutions are how we define what we believe and what we're prepared to fight for. Our resolutions document is a set of commitments we make together to hold our union accountable to the vision we claim. And in that document, we're basically making clear that this is the world we're organizing to build and what we expect our union to fight for. So that being said, let's jump into the first proposed amendment, which is to Resolution B20. And since everyone can read and these are lengthy, I will give a summary of each of the amendments. This amendment strengthens our commitment to student well-being by expanding the resolution to include comprehensive health education alongside physical education. It establishes recommendations for minimum instructional time, aligns with national standards, and affirms that these subjects must be taught by licensed educators. Both the Resolutions Committee and the Board of Directors recommend adoption of this proposed amendment to Resolution B20. Our second amendment, the Resolutions Committee and the Board of Directors also recommend adoption of the proposed amendment to Resolution F15. This amendment addresses equity in our retirement system by recognizing the need for retirement contributions for part-time faculty in public higher education, ensuring that they receive benefits comparable to other state employees who are working 20 or more hours per week. And again, adoption is recommended by both the Resolutions Committee and the MTA Board of Directors. And we feel that these amendments reflect our shared commitment to equity, health, and dignity for our students and for our members. And that is all we have before us for resolution amendments for this year.
Are there questions? And while people are thinking, I will ask one, just as a point of information for folks. You people, that is delegates, may propose amendments to these proposals. Is that right, Deb? And what is the limitations for those?
So I believe that we have not done resolutions on the floor of annual meeting for a couple of years. So you just put me on the spot, Max, because now
sorry.
I'm questioning my memory of this. We've not gotten to it in the agenda. I believe we can take amendments from the floor, but we cannot take new proposed resolutions.
Right. Yes, I think that's right. Yeah, just so that folks know that you can adjust these. You can propose to adjust them, but you can't sort of on the fly say, hey, how about this new resolution? That has to have been done much earlier.
Yes.
Great. Now we have two questions. See, so I'm just sorry to put you on the spot, but I wanted to give people time to think of their questions.
All right, Michael's first.
All right. Hi.
Hi. So, Max, you actually just asked the first part of my question. I'm Michael Stassen. I'm adjunct faculty, so this relates directly to me. And I'm concerned about the 20-hour limit part of this, actually. No private employer can avoid contributing to the retirement of their employees, no matter how many or how few hours they work. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts is the only employer that thinks they have the ability to say, oh, you're not full-time, you don't get anything. I think it would look different what the Commonwealth should do for perhaps less than half-time and more than half-time. But I guess I'm arguing now, which I'm not supposed to do. So I will propose an amendment. I suspect that to adjust that, and we'll see what the membership thinks. Thank you.
Yes, and just to clarify what Max said, folks can propose amendments to the amendments from the floor, but not whole new resolutions from the floor. So I look forward to that.
Thanks.
Tracy's next.
Hi, I have a question about the PE. I work in an elementary school, and is there requirement for health and PE for the elementary now compared to what this proposal has?
So this would encourage us to be advocating to have separate health and PE teachers, so it's not one person being overburdened by doing parts of a job. And so it would be moving toward trying to fully staff our schools. I don't know if the maker of the resolution is on to explain a little bit more about it, but we had great conversations last year and this year with her, and about the fact that right now to teach health in a phys ed class, you don't have to actually be a health teacher.
Okay. I guess one of my concerns is I know in my district, we're at an $8 million deficit in the budget already, and now we're adding a position.
I think just to clarify, resolutions are aspirational documents. They're things that we are, going to, as a union, be organizing around. They won't implement directly things into policy or legislation at the state level.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? If not, we will move on. Thank you very much, Deb Gesualdo. And before we go on there's one other piece of business, which I think will go up on the screen in a second. This is a specific recommendation coming from the Board of Directors. That will be, I think, on the screen in a minute. This is a recommendation the board voted on at its last meeting to bring to the annual meeting. And so you'll have a chance to debate this likely on Friday. And that is a motion to have the MTA support 3 ballot initiatives. So let me explain the ballot initiatives, and then I'll explain how the board is recommending this be funded. So there are a number of ballot initiatives. That means those, these questions that will go on the November 2026 ballot. There are a number that the board considered, a number that they voted on to say that MTA stands behind. And then there were 3 that the board made as prioritized. And then a motion came before the board and was now brought to you, the annual meeting delegates, to consider investing in, meaning spending money or committing money if these go forward to the ballot in order to either win or defeat them. So I'll just go through them very quickly. The first one is actually two ballot initiatives initiated by the same group, the Massachusetts High Tech Council, that together would, we nicely put it, blow an $8 billion hole in our annual state budget. They're an income tax cut and then another proposal that would sort of steadily ratchet down how much revenues we could collect as a state. And estimates are between $7 and $8 billion ultimately would have to be taken out of the state budget. So we've been working very hard in coalition against these, and the board made it one of the top priorities. And to this point, said that if these go forward to the ballot that and we're not able to defeat it in advance, that we would ask the annual meeting to commit up $2 million to that campaign. Now, on the positive side, the yes side, so those would be no votes. We're trying to defeat those. Those are bad initiatives. On the other side is rent control, and this would be a yes vote. And so the MTA board is asking the delegates of annual meeting to commit $1 million to help win that vote at the ballot. And then finally is gun control, which is a piece of legislation that already is passed, but a group of citizens gathered enough signatures to take it to the ballot to repeal that legislation. So we like the legislation. The MTA has endorsed it, and we were pleased that it passed. And now we want to defend it. Now, on the ballot, you will still have to vote yes, basically to reaffirm support for this gun control motion. And so the board is recommending to the delegates of annual meeting that we dedicate $500,000 to that campaign. And so now let me just explain the sources of that. So really the motion suggests 3 different sources that would then have to be worked out. If you all approve this, then between the board, the Public Relations and Organizing Committee, which you heard about earlier in the budget debate, as well as MTAB, MTA benefits. Each has potential sources to fund this, and there would be a debate or discussion between them. So just to be clear, MTA, us, the union, the statewide union, we have done very well over many years to secure a strong set of reserves, both for emergencies as well as for the big campaigns that we have fought, such as the Fair Share Amendment, winning question 2 on high stakes testing, and earlier back in 2016, defeating the charter school question. That all largely came from MTA reserves. The other source that we've used in the past is this public relations and organizing budget. As you've seen, there's a proposal to raise that from $20 to $30, but either way, it is a significant amount of funds that have in the past, the PR&O committee has been asked by the board, hey, could you please set aside a good chunk of money to be able to either win this campaign on the ballot or defeat a bad ballot initiative? So those two had been very traditional sources of funds for these ballot campaigns. And then the third one is the MTA benefits, which is our wholly owned subsidiary that provides you access to great deals, to life and car insurance and home insurance. And that MTA benefits also has some significant reserves that could be, if that board, MTA benefits board, which is our members, chooses to access some of that. So this is about having the annual meetings put the stamp of approval on these kinds of funds to both defeat terrible tax initiatives or win rent control and gun control. And then there would be a discussion afterwards between these three different sources about how to actually fund it. I hope that was clear, and there was a lot, but I'm glad to take any questions. I will personally just say I'm very proud that the board endorsed this and put it before you at annual meeting, because we are the essential force to be able to win both financially but also on the ground important ballot initiatives.
All right, Max, you have two questions. First is Sarah.
Hi, is there
Sarah.
somewhere we can find the amount of information, the amount in reserves for MTA, for MTAB? Is that something that can either be provided or is on the website and I'm just not seeing?
I don't think it's on the website. We can find it. I could probably find it in about 15 seconds if I were not answering questions. I think it is around.
That's okay. I'm just hoping before
Yeah.
it comes to debate that it can be
Yeah, I can say
provided.
this. I believe MTA reserves are, it fluctuates with the market, is around $65 million, but I will look at that up. The PRNO, as you know, public relation organizing, is about 1.8 million, but it would grow, as Deb showed earlier, if you approved that $10 increase. So that's another source. And MTA benefits has roughly $4 million in reserves. And so those are the basic numbers, and I'll find the exact numbers on the MTA reserves.
Thank
in a
you.
minute. Sure, thanks, Sarah.
All right, and Michael is next.
Hi, it's me again. Is the plan to present all of that as one thing to vote on, or are we going to vote on those three separate categories separately? Because I could imagine some people might have different opinions on the different categories.
So that did come as one motion from the board that was approved. One could make a motion, and the parliamentary guide is also on the mta.askteacher.org/annual meeting site, where one could separate out questions, and that can happen in a variety of. That can happen on any kind of questions, including this one. You could say, well, let's separate out this one from that one. So that is possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else? Well, okay, then we will move right along. Let me get back to my document. So now we are on the opportunity to hear from candidates for MTA offices. So obviously, we have lots of business in annual meeting, but elections are a key part of what we do there. And so this is an opportunity now to hear from candidates to be elected at annual meeting. And those elections take place on Saturday at 11 a.m. after the budget agenda items, the operating budget and the public relations and organizing budget. If the budget action goes beyond 11 a.m., the elections will begin immediately after. So we have many elections, including elections for president and vice president. And today's candidate speeches for president and vice presidents are a maximum of 5 minutes. And there will be a timer displayed. So everyone who's speaking should see that timer. Candidate speeches for other positions will be a maximum of 3 minutes. And of course, that timer will be there. And so as soon as I introduce you, then please unmute yourselves and we will begin the timer when you begin. Is that all clear to everyone? Okay, so let us now begin, and we will hear first for candidates for MTA president. That will be 5 minutes, and the first up is John Sullivan.
Good evening, delegates. Thank you for showing up. Our union is stronger because of you. I come from a family of public service workers and union educators. Being a part of a union isn't just what I do, it's who I am. Annual meeting is the time to turn the page and begin a new chapter for MTA, one centered on our members, built through organizing and focused on winning the conditions our educators and students deserve. As a local leader, I'm proud of what we built in Belmont, and I'm running for MTA president to bring that same vision statewide. Listen to members, organize to achieve our goals, and mobilize to win. Right now, too many local leaders feel unsupported, and too many members feel disconnected from the statewide union. That didn't happen overnight. It reflects a culture that has drifted away from listening, collaboration, and shared leadership. I'm running to rebuild the democratic member-led union, one stands shoulder to shoulder with local leaders and chapters, organizes to win, and puts educators and students' needs first. For 33 years, I've been a special educator at Belmont High School. In my first year in Belmont, I voted to go on strike. 2 weeks on the picket line, cold and exhausted, taught me one thing: solidarity works. That experience has also shaped how I lead. Strong unions require courage, accountability, and shared power. Since then, I've served as a building rep, negotiator, local vice president, and local president, and a member of the MTA Executive Committee. In every role, my focus has been the same: strengthen member voice, increase transparency, and build power at the worksite. Strong contracts don't happen by accident. They happen when members are organized. 12 years ago in Belmont, we transformed our bargaining process. We didn't start at the table, we started at the worksite. Members identified priorities and built a platform that guided negotiations. When the school committee tried to exclude members from attending as silent representatives, we didn't back down. We kept bargaining. We filed the charge at the Department of Labor, and we won 2 decisions that opened bargaining to silent representatives. The Belmont decision affirmed the right of unions across Massachusetts to include silent representatives during bargaining. That's member-driven unionism: transparent, strategic, and grounded in collective action. And that is the leadership I will bring to MTA. As a member of the executive committee, I've worked to connect locals across Region G, because our power grows when we organize together. Through action networks like GBean, B-Span, and a B-Clause bargaining council, we brought members together to fight for fair leave, living wages, racial justice, and safe working conditions. As a regional leader, I've also worked with other leaders to organize locals confronting racism, conversation centers on intersectionality, and action planning. Collaboration, shared leadership, and listening to members' lived experience are essential to building equity in schools, colleges, universities, and within the MTA. These collaborations didn't just build relationships, they delivered strong contracts. That's the model: connect, organize, win. I'm proud to be running alongside Gail Carvalho. We share a clear vision of strong public education, a democratic, member-driven union, and a more just society. We are the only candidates not aligned with a caucus. Our only commitment is to you, the members. Leadership should be accountable to all members, not internal politics. We are in a challenging moment. Public education faces sustained pressure. We can't be reactive. We must be organized, strategic, and united. Our strength comes from engaged members, transparent decision-making, and a culture where healthy debate makes us stronger. As president, I will prioritize building organizing capacity, strengthening local support, and expanding member voice, so we are ready not just to defend public education, but to shape its future. That means fighting for real investment in our schools, fair pay, healthcare, secure retirements, professional respect, and the autonomy that educators need to meet students' needs. And let's be clear, equity and justice are union issues. In Belmont, we built Belmont Educators of Color and Accomplices to confront racism and organize for change. This work requires listening, collaboration, and shared leadership. I am committed to leading a union where every member's voice is heard, valued, and respected, because our union is strongest when we rise together. My mission is to build a union centered on improving public education by supporting the workers who make it possible, and for fighting for a more just society. That means leading with humility, putting the needs of the collective ahead of any one person's agenda, and making decisions grounded in what's best for our members and our students. If we set our eyes on the schools our students deserve and the conditions our members need and pursue them with great resolve, there is nothing we cannot win together. I ask for your support, your partnership, and your vote. Let's turn the page. Let's build strength together. Let's win. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And now next up is Matt Bach.
Hello, delegates. Over the last decade, MTA members and locals across the state have raised their expectations, initiating a surge of labor power. Our communities followed education workers into the streets to demand better working and learning conditions. In their 2025 contract, the Somerville educators won $50,000 starting wage for ESPs, a landmark in MTA's living wage campaign. In February, the UMass Professional Staff Union beat back the administration's attempt to impose merit pay in a contract victory won through powerful actions like organized practice pickets. And recently, the Stoneham Education Association ratified a transformative contract after the school committee conceded to union member power and agreed to a just settlement on the spot during a public meeting. Like others, Deb Gesualdo and I have served many roles in the MTA and NEA, but we are the only candidates who have led locals through life-changing strikes. In Andover, we won a living wage and personal time for ESPs, 12 weeks of paid parental leave, more planning time, more recess for our students, and paid family leave. These victories embolden locals across the state to raise their expectations and win their own transformative contracts. But just like my history students learned, successful movements for progress often elicit a reaction from our opponents, and our historic victories are no different. Across the Commonwealth, the enemies of workers and public education are slashing school and college budgets, following a narrative of manufactured austerity, and pushing AI and EdTech products that impoverish our students' education, threaten our jobs, and try to replace the human relationships at the heart of our craft. The fascist right seeks to kidnap our immigrant neighbors, attack trans students, and strip away academic freedom. Our union faces a critical moment, and you, the delegates, will choose the path we take. Should we moderate our demands for justice, mitigate our expectations, and turn back towards strategic retreat? Or should we meet the moment by embracing our collective member power and assert our dignity, autonomy, and freedom to educate? Deb and I are ready to meet this moment. Our platform represents the priorities of MTA members who came together to develop a collective vision to guide our campaign and hold us accountable when elected. Under EDU leadership, MTA defeated charter schools, won the Student Opportunity Act, and taxed millionaires. Our campaign will expand and deepen those fights for public education and working class families. I cherish every moment of every day I'm in the classroom with students engaging in the craft of teaching history. I believe that public education is the greatest invention of humanity and the foundation for democracy, progress, and economic, racial, and gender equality. I know that the liberatory promise of public education and the immense pleasure I take in my work in the classroom every day is guaranteed by the member power of our state and local unions. That's why, however overwhelming this moment may seem, Deb and I are confident that the collective power of MTA members can defeat the threats facing us. Every fight, every victory, every collective action starts in the same place, our work sites, when we fight the boss. These struggles give us the organizational power, stamina, and endurance to take on the creeping authoritarianism, threatening not just our schools and colleges, but our democracy. Our locals need to know that MTA has their backs in these fights, and that MTA will not retreat when rank and file members are putting everything on the line. The MTA under our leadership will not back down, not once, not ever. So join us in raising the expectations of all education workers across the Commonwealth. The entire nation looks to MTA, to us, for guidance. Let's reassert our commitment to the vision and values that have earned us the admiration of unionists and progressives nationwide, and give MTA members, the Commonwealth, and the nation the leadership they need.
Thank you. My name is Deb McCarthy, and I am an educator with more than 25 years experience and a family with a deep-rooted history of dedication to public education. My mother, my sister, my daughter, and my daughter-in-law have experienced firsthand the working conditions that have exploited educators for decades. We have been underfunded, undervalued, disrespected, and overworked, and it's time for that to change. My mom, widowed at the age of 44, raised 5 children on the meager salary of an educator. At the age of 92, she can testify to our right to retire with dignity. My sister was denied Retirement Plus while out on a maternity leave. She also was one of the educators behind the legal case that the Hull Teachers Association won, which provides contractual protections for non-tenured teachers. My daughter and daughter-in-law struggle with the fiscal reality of not being able to make it on today's salary and what it means to be educators, balancing student loans, childcare, housing, and unsustainable rise in healthcare costs that do not keep up with inflation on a salary that is not a thriving wage. Many of us have experienced firsthand the working conditions of consistent underfunding and under-resourced schools, conditions that have created spaces that are no longer safe for students, faculty, and staff alike. As highly educated professionals, we have been denied agency and autonomy in a gendered workforce by systems of patriarchy that offer up our best practices to the altar of profit for the education privateer. I understand the challenges before us, and I have been championed for your rights for years. I brought democratized bargaining to my local more than a decade ago. I formed the South Shore Justice Alliance, organizing educators and community members in a public campaign for safe schools, in campaigns against austerity budgets, and I led an opt-out campaign in 2014 that was the foundational pillar for the work that would happen with the overwhelming passage of Question 2 in November of 2024. As an organizer, I coalesced a group of union presidents from the South Shore, and as a coalition, we collectively navigated bargaining demands during COVID. And I refused to administer the MCAS following our return to the classroom because we were prioritizing a score over students. In my first year as a union president, I stood in solidarity with the striking educators in Quincy. And I have stood in solidarity with striking educators in Dedham, Brookline, Haverhill, Malden, Woburn, Andover, Newton, Beverly, Gloucester, and Marblehead. We must recognize and continue to insert that an injury to one is an injury to all. And I was also there when strike-ready locals like Fall River, Hingham, Braintree, and Quincy achieved significant wins at the bargaining table. I will continue to speak truth to power about the toolkits necessary for after a strike vote and the need for deepening community relationships with parents and other community members, calling on elected officials to back public education workers when we withhold our labor. These times demand bold leadership and experienced leadership. I am that leader. I am the only candidate running for MTA president who has both the institutional and experiential knowledge to lead on day one. I chaired the Government Relations Committee for 6 years, was a director for the NEA and the MTA, and I have been on the board's negotiating team for 7 years now. I serve as an executive council member of the AFL-CIO, and I have been your vice president for 2 terms. I believe that members closest to the problem must be given the power to be closest to the solution. And I asked Dean Robinson to run for VP because you deserve a leadership team with a command and understanding of the pressing needs in a union, pre-K through higher ed. We are ready to fight for thriving wages, for access to affordable care, dignified retirement benefits, ready for the fight for the staff, UMass forced to work under 40-year-old classification systems, for MCCC adjunct faculties and educators in pre-K through 12 struggling with overwhelming class sizes. The experience and expertise that we bring is unparalleled, and the only ones that we are beholden to are you, the rank and file members. Our vision for the future of the MTA is centered on the coalition work that overcomes the hurdles before us. We are fighting in solidarity for the union that the people by the people deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Now we will hear from our 3 candidates for MTA Vice President. And the first up is Deb Gesualdo.
A union is not a service. It is workers building power together. And when we build real power, we win. Not by waiting on institutional agents of the boss to act for us or accepting half-truths, but by organizing together. My name is Deb Gesualdo. I started my career as an ESP in the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District, and today I'm a K-8 music teacher in Malden, where I serve as local president. I got involved in my local because I saw people disconnected from each other, folks who had never been brought into something collective, and a union that had not yet realized its own power. And I also saw what was possible and knew we had the chance to build something stronger. So I started organizing, building trust, and connecting people. Because when we come together, we stop accepting scraps and claim what we deserve. In 2022, Malden educators stood shoulder to shoulder with Haverhill educators and did exactly that. We struck and we won. Things like paid parental leave, historic raises for ESPs, expanded sick time, housing protections, safer schools. But the biggest win was this. We proved that when workers move together in solidarity, we have power. Across pre-K through higher education, we are being pushed to do so much more with less and less every day, while decisions are being pulled further away from the people who actually do the work. We see ESPs holding entire systems together, faculty stretched thin, adjunct educators piecing together survival without stability, benefits, retirement, or respect. That is not a coincidence. That is austerity by design, and our students are living it too. They come into our classrooms carrying economic inequality, working late, caring for family, facing housing instability. So many are navigating immigration systems that put their families at risk, living with uncertainty, fear, and the threat of separation. Racial injustice shapes their lives, and attacks on gender and identity threaten their safety. This is all one interconnected fight. So the question in front of you and in front of me is not a small one. Are we going to keep reacting to what is done to us, or are we going to build the power to change it? Because we already know what works. When workers talk to each other, build trust, make decisions together, and act collectively, we build real power. And when we have power, we win. But our work can't stop at the bargaining table, because our lives are shaped by more than what is written in a contract. We're all living it. Healthcare costs that can bankrupt a family, workloads that keep expanding, a system that is defunding and reshaping public education at our expense. So we meet our reality head on and build power at the scale of the problem, because this moment of austerity, disinvestment, and attacks on our students and our profession demands more than just reaction. It demands that we build power to win the things our rank and file need and deserve. Things like fully funded public education from pre-K through higher education, and dignity in our work, autonomy in our classrooms and on our campuses, nothing less. That's why I'm running with Matt Bach and the Educators for a Democratic Union slate. We share a vision of what this union can be, our union, not just in this moment, but in the long term. A union that is democratic and building towards something, that develops leaders, deepens power in every local, and aligns our work across the state so we're moving together. And that isn't theoretical for us. Matt and I have both organized and led strikes. When we take on the full reality of our lives and act together around those shared conditions, we win strong contracts and we build lasting power for all working people. That kind of power isn't abstract. It is built in every work site where educators come together, build trust, and build that collective power. That's the work I've been doing in Malden since 2017, and the work I've brought to the state and national level, always grounded in the rank and file. I'm asking you to vote Bach and Gesualdo for MTA if, like Matt and I, you believe in a union that does not begin and end at passive listening, but builds power, takes the lead instead of waiting for a seat at someone else's table, doesn't settle for scraps from institutional agents of the boss disguised as half-truths and compromise, and expands what is possible. Because when workers build power together and refuse to back down, we don't just fight, we win.
Thank you, Deb. Next up is Dean Robinson.
My name is Dean Robinson. I want to tell you why I'm running with Deb McCarthy and why you should vote for me. I'm concerned and alarmed by trends in public education, starting with what I've seen over several decades at UMass Amherst, where I've taught in the political science department and where I currently serve as chair. I've seen declining numbers of full-time faculty, understaffing, and inadequate compensation across the board, especially for our staff and our lowest paid colleagues. The effects shape the curriculum itself. Over my career, that has meant declining enrollment in the humanities, the fine arts, and the social sciences, the precise areas of study that matter most at a time when AI promises to make certain technical competencies redundant. We need to understand what makes us human: languages, literature, history, creative arts, and we need the tools to engage the political project of democracy, of our flawed democracy. This is exactly what we are defunding. This is analogous to what is going on in K-12. Less money affects what we can do in the classrooms, and it leads to the disregard of professional discretion and judgment. More consequentially, it affects conditions of work, the number of teachers, ESPs, school psychologists, nurses, and others who are vital to our ability to deliver the education our kids deserve. When we look in K-12 districts for discretionary money, it's certainly not in the pockets of ESPs. As in higher education, we see enormous bloat in administrative salaries. Our locals in our state union give us a chance to take on these issues at different levels. I've done a lot of that work. I've served on the board of my local, the Massachusetts Society of Professors. I served for 3 years as an NEA director, and I sat on the board of the MTA. I served for 6 years on MTA's Government Relations Committee. Before becoming chair, I did 3 years on the Environmental Health and Safety Committee during the pandemic. I currently serve as MTA's representative on the Group Insurance Commission, where, with member support and mobilization, we help challenge and stop the governor's proposed cost shifting. We have a lot to attend to, but I want to make the case for addressing our healthcare crisis, which would be a signature campaign of a Deb and Dean ticket. I've spent more than 20 years working on this. It is the subject of my teaching, of my research, and a forthcoming book. And I want to be clear about why this matters for us. Healthcare costs eat our wages. They are the single biggest pressure eroding what we bargain at the table and what our districts can spend in the classroom. An ESP making $35,000 a year pays the same premium as a teacher making $75,000. An adjunct professor gets no coverage at all. These are not accidents of plan design. They reflect fundamental flaws in how we offer and pay for health insurance in this state and in this country. A single payer system for the Commonwealth, where everyone is covered by one public plan, addresses that problem. Everyone in, nobody out. Lower costs for medical care and prescription drugs. No copays, no deductibles, no premiums. Real relief to members, particularly those who earn the least. Healthcare costs per person in the Commonwealth are the second highest in the world. These costs are cannibalizing town and municipal budgets. We can do far more with that money if we redirected it from wasteful spending on insurance and drug companies to the things we actually need: wages and jobs for educators. If I have the privilege of serving as your next vice president, you can be sure that I will help lead a campaign for single payer, for health equity, which matters to all of us, but especially to Black, brown, and other working class people inside and outside our union. That's what Deb and I are offering. I'm asking for your vote. Elect Deb McCarthy, elect Dean Robinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. And the third candidate is Gail Carvalho.
Good evening, delegates. Thank you for hearing from all of us this evening. My name is Gail Carvalho. I'm a high school English educator, the president of the Quincy Education Association, and the Region D Executive Committee member. I believe our union is strongest when leaders listen first and decide with members and not for them. Everywhere I go in this campaign, I'm asking one central question. What do you need from your union to do your best work for the students in your educational space? John Sullivan and I believe it's time to refocus our union on what matters most: teaching, learning, and the conditions that allow both to thrive. Your answers are shaping our platform for the MTA presidency and vice presidency. As the president of the Quincy Education Association, most of this job is listening in parking lots at 6:45 in the morning, at late night calls after hard days, and in union meetings where our members are tired, they're frustrated, and they are honest. Representing nearly 1,000 members across Quincy Public Schools and at Quincy College, I've heard over and over about unmanageable workloads, growing student needs, and a desire for a union that has your back every day, not just at contract time. On the executive committee, I've listened to locals across very different communities. I've heard from small locals that feel isolated, from ESPs who feel invisible, and from higher ed members who feel like an afterthought. Those voices convince me of something simple but powerful. No leader can assume we know what's best for every local. Our job is to ask, to listen, and to help locals turn their priorities into power. As a member of the Safe Schools for All Task Force, I've listened to educators talk about what safety really means: smaller classes, more adults in the room, real mental health supports, and schools where every student is respected for who they are. We heard from members dealing with extreme student behaviors and trauma without enough support. The staffing and behavioral policies we're proposing come directly from what they've told us. So, what are our members saying, and what does that mean for our platform? First, members want true student success and opportunity for every student. That means fully and fairly funded schools from pre-K through higher ed, enforceable class size limits, and the counselors, social workers, and wraparound service every student deserves. Second, members want educator power, real voice in the work that shapes our classrooms and our campuses. In Quincy, we made bargaining member driven by centering contract campaigns around building level conversations where all voices were heard and respected. We won because our proposals came from the people closest to the work. As vice president, I'll push for that same approach, starting with listening and structures that empower building reps and enforce contracts quickly. Third, members want a true community of educators, not a fragmented union. Newer educators want mentorship and a real welcome, not just a folder. ESPs want respect, a living wage, and a seat at the table. Educators of color, LGBTQ+ members, and higher ed staff want to be seen and heard, not tokenized or left out. Building communities means listening to voices on purpose and leading differently because of it. Too often decisions get made about people instead of with them. I'm running for vice president because I reject the idea that a small group at the top should decide what 117,000 members need. Our commitment is simple. We will ask, we will listen, and we will act with members, never instead of them. In Quincy, on the Safe Schools Task Force, and in Region D, I've seen how real listening builds leadership, solidarity, and power. As vice president, I'll bring that same listening first approach statewide. I'll show up in your buildings, on your campuses, and in your communities to listen, not just to speak. I'll help locals build organizing structures rooted in member conversations. And I'll fight for safe, fully funded, inclusive schools from pre-K through higher ed, guided by what you say students need. This election is about who we want to be as a union, one that reacts from the top or one that builds power from the bottom up. I believe in the power of educators to transform our schools when we are trusted, supported, and organized, and when leadership truly listens. I'm ready to do that work together with John Sullivan, to listen, to stand with you, and to build the strong, democratic, member-led MTA our members, students, and communities deserve. Thank you, and I can't wait to keep listening to you.
Thank you, Gail. Now we have the at-large executive committee and board seats for the election this year. Again, the remaining candidates have a speech time limit of 3 minutes each. And so, of course, candidates, unmute yourself when I introduce you. So we'll next hear from candidates for at-large ESP executive committee member. And first up is Susan Suarez.
Good evening. I'm Susan Soares, she, her pronouns, and I'm a special education paraprofessional at the Stratton Elementary School in Arlington. My path for union work started with an opportunity to organize in 2018. Arlington paras were not unionized when I started working in 2008, but in 2018, we had an opportunity to work with the MTA field rep, and from there, I led the unionization of Arlington paras, securing a transformative contract in 2019. I have been an ESP advocate committed to professional respect, fair wages, strong benefits, safe workplaces, and meaningful voices in decision-making. In 2021, I was honored as the ESP of the Year by MTA. As I continued my passion for union work, I proudly represented Unit D on the board of directors, and now, for the last 4 years, I've been serving as Secretary Membership Coordinator on the Executive Board. My opportunity on the Executive Board has given me great insight and responsibilities for working and guiding my local and to advocate for ESPs. I have led multiple contract negotiations, one in particular, a mid-contract negotiation after Arlington passed an override. We bargained up to 30% wage increase and hours that qualified us for FMLA. This made Arlington more competitive with surrounding towns. I have participated in MTA's bargaining certificate program, mentoring program, multiple leadership programs, and when our bargaining council, B-Clause, took shape in 2023, I took the lead and stepped up to be the organizing chair. 6 locals have worked together to create attainable and aspirational goals for better contracts, supporting each other during contract fights, and participating in statewide actions. B-Span, the Boston ESP and Allies Network, I have also been involved in, meets with ESPs and teachers together. In March, we invited Representative Idahoven from Somerville to come and speak at B-Span and ask how can we contribute to moving the ESP Living Wage Act forward. This was a continuation of the work last October when I spoke at the State House, helping to bring attention to the low pay of paras working multiple jobs while trying to support our students. Locals Confronting Racism has also been a powerful group that I participated in and have deepened my understanding of diversity and racial inequality. Having meaningful conversations and bridging difficult subjects as educated is something I believe all people can benefit from. I am also the co-leader of my Rainbow Alliance Club that gives students a chance to come and be in a welcome, safe space. I strongly believe that ESP should be respected and compensated for their work and continue elevating ESP leadership, strengthening our collective power, and continue to work hard to fight for what our members deserve. I am ready to do the work to ensure ESPs are included and every member is treated fairly. I'd be honored to have your support and vote for Executive Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And next up is Camille Godbout-Chouinard. Thank you, Camille.
Good evening, MTA delegates. My name is Camille, and I'm a higher ed ESP working in UMass Amherst Libraries, and I serve as Chief Steward and Organizing Committee Co-Chair in the University Staff Association. I'm running to advocate and stand with all ESPs, pre-K through higher ed, on the MTA Executive Committee. My priorities and actions are rooted in winning thriving wages, safe working conditions, and dignity in our workplaces through collective power gained through deep organizing and democratized unions. I have honed these priorities and actions while organizing to democratize my own local. Me and a team of grassroots unionists took no shortcuts, as Jane McAlevey would say. We laid the groundwork for silent bargaining reps, strengthened cross-union coalitions, and rebooted our communications committee to ensure transparency with our members. Ultimately, we were elected onto our board where we continue to do the work of building a member-led union and organizing to be able to fight the coming battles. It has never been clearer that resilient schools and vibrant communities are only built by empowering the underrepresented and the underserved. As an ESP in higher ed and a member of the MTA ESP committee, I see how ESPs fight to raise up not only each other, but their schools and their communities. This cascading effect underscores the essential role that ESPs fill in our educational institutions. Student learning conditions are best when paraeducators work in safe workplaces and go home with a paycheck that covers the essentials with more to spare. Undergrads receive a robust higher education when their professors are supported by clerical and technical staff with fair workloads and full grocery carts. Students can only engage fully in their education when they feel supported by their schools and safe in their communities. On the executive committee, I will uplift the organizers spearheading these fights by supporting policy changes that provide the organizing support, educational materials, and financial resources needed to win these conditions. Policies such as ensuring equitable access to MTA staff across locals, regardless of size or classification, supporting rank-and-file living wage campaigns with an emphasis on escalating campaigns and strike readiness, promoting the creation of bargaining councils across districts and locals to fight for the common good. ESPs have been leading the way, showing the MTA how to win life-changing contracts thanks to countless hours of organizing. And it's my job on the executive committee to represent your needs and demand the support and resources that you and I deserve to continue that fight. Please join me in continuing the upward momentum of ESPs by voting for me to be your ESP at large on the executive committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Our next two speakers are candidates for at-large ethnic minority executive committee member, and we will start with Elizabeth Tyrrell.
The goal of public education as a great equalizer for economic opportunity has never really been fully realized because the system has been designed to recreate inequality. That being said, the very survival of public education as we know it depends upon the actions of our union. We, the largest union in Massachusetts, must continue to lead the way, and I'm prepared to help fulfill that moral imperative as a member of the executive committee. I listen, learn, adapt, and know when to speak up. As an organizer in the Andover Education Association, I am a strike-proven team player. I understand the importance of strong unions to protect ethnic minority members and to secure fair compensation for workers who have been denied equal opportunities for far too long. Beyond fair pay, we must also defend our ability to teach the truth. The art of teaching will be lost if we allow decisions to be made without input from the actual working professionals in the classroom. I will support the Educators for a Democratic Union platform, which has been crafted by educators from across the state. As a Tsimshian tribal member and vice president of the Andover Education Association, I see a deep alignment between Native values and union values, a commitment to our shared well-being, a willingness to set aside personal convenience for the good of the community, a deep respect for those who came before us, and a responsibility to those who will come after. I live those values with a rebellious, undefeated spirit. Even while undergoing treatment for stage 3 breast cancer, I remain committed to this fight, participating in all but one executive committee meeting. But my contribution goes beyond attendance. I bring member-centered advocacy to every space I enter. I have stood on strike lines across the North Shore, attended bargaining sessions statewide, and taken direct action to hold a GIC voting member accountable. I have also worked to grow our union, gathering the necessary support to pass formal motions on the executive committee to prioritize membership. I helped pass a policy change that increased funding access for ethnic minority members to attend the annual meeting of delegates. I am a fighter for justice, even while fighting for my own life. I respectfully ask for your vote at the MTA Annual Meeting to serve as the at-large ethnic minority representative on the executive committee.
Thank you, Liz. Next up is Rosa Lopez Whitehill.
Hola, MTA delegates. My name is Rosa Lopez Whitehill, and I'm seeking your vote for the at-large Ethnic Minority Membership Executive Committee seat. I am a high school Spanish teacher in Pembroke whose journey in the U.S. education system started as an ELL student from Puerto Rico. I had dreams of going to college, but by my senior year, my guidance counselor refused to send my recommendation letters, claiming that my English was not good enough. My sister, who was my legal guardian and a kindergarten educator, had to intervene and fight for my right to higher education. That incident is what drives me to remove obstacles for ethnically marginalized educators so that no one else has to fight alone just to access opportunity. I have defied those odds to become a public school teacher, and I'm committed to paying forward what my sister did for me. For the past 5 years, I have served as the Ethnic Minority Membership Director at the Board of Directors, working to remove barriers and help educators step into leadership and fully engage in the life of our union. Let's be clear, removing obstacles strengthens our union. And to that end, through my role in the EMAC committee, and in collaboration with the EMAC committee, I created the Delegate Partnership Program, monthly Zoom calls with ethnic minority members to inform them of opportunities within the MTA and NEA. Many of you are here today because of that program. Along with EMAC Chair Candace Shivers, I created a booklet that explains how to navigate our union for ethnic minority members. And within this booklet, I also produced the map that explains our union structure. I authored the Dependent Care Reimbursement NBI, supporting many of you so you can fully participate at annual meeting. And I have also created several NBIs protecting our health and safety, including one you will hear at annual meeting. I have testified before the Education Subcommittee at the State House to successfully remove licensing requirements for world language educators. And now I want to talk to the ethnic minority members in this room. I see you. I know many of you feel invisible and unheard. I know that you have been denied opportunities, and I know that you carry a heavier load. On top of stagnant wages, housing insecurity, rising healthcare costs, and increasing stress, you are not alone. Together, we can remove these barriers from our classrooms to the State House. Serving on the executive committee will allow me to expand this work and ensure that your voices are not just heard, but acted on. And that's why I humbly ask for your vote for the ethnic minority membership on the executive committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Now we will hear from the two candidates for the board seat, at-large director for ESPs, and we will start with Janelle Quarles.
Good evening, all. My name is Janelle Quarles. I am a higher ed ESP at UMass Boston, and I'm running for the at-large ESP seat on MTA's board of directors. We are in strange times. Don't get me wrong, I know that we are always in a crisis. Every year we convene for our annual meetings and pre-cons, and there's always the big issue, something threatening to undermine our collective power, a crucial election, or in the most unfortunate of events, a tragedy that has taken the lives of our community members, children, and families. What I mean by strange times is that it also seems that some of us subscribe to a notion that placing restrictions on how we celebrate each other and our achievements will somehow encourage new leadership. For those who are not in the know, ESPs are the heart and soul of our schools. We are the first point of contact for our students who keep the engines and machines running, and I mean that literally, for our school bus drivers and facilities for custodial staff. Most of us live in the same community that we work in, which means that we have a better sense of who our students are and what they may endure outside of school, which can help put out fires during school. And on top of those and countless other things we have going on in our lives, we still fight for our fellow members to maintain and gain better collective bargaining agreements. This is but a brief summary of who we are. I wish to represent my fellow ESPs on the state level and continue fighting for long overdue living wages, better health care, and absolute fairness and transparency within our union. I ask for your vote at annual meeting on May 9th. As a fellow MTA member, I thank you for being a delegate to annual meeting. And thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Janelle. Next up is Holly Currier.
Good evening. I'm Holly Currier. I'm a proud second-generation instructional assistant at Andover High School in my 12th year as an ESP. I was raised by a single mother making an IA wage. When I became an IA in the same building as my mom, she cautioned me to keep my head down and make an exit plan. Don't resign myself to a life of subservience, disrespect, and financial struggle. At the time, she couldn't imagine IAs having the power to change our wages or working conditions. But I refused to accept that we sacrifice our right to dignity, respect, and prosperity when we become education workers. Eventually, I found other educators who were sick of begging, and we began organizing. We quickly learned the transformative power of democracy and collective action when members refused to enter unsafe buildings and won 207 HVAC repairs. After that win, my mom, a woman who has followed the rules her entire life, began to fantasize about striking for a living wage. I am running for a re-election to ESP at large because I want to keep growing the experience of collective power across Massachusetts. In my first term on the MTA board, I have successfully advocated to give the rank and file direct access to MTA organizing support. Now, I aim to deepen and broaden the involvement of our membership in building our power to create a better world for all. A world where one job is enough, and we leave work with our well-being intact, and where we have enough to imagine more. We create this world by building power and solidarity across locals and classifications through regional bargaining councils. We restore this right to our most effective tool, the strike, by taking a page out of labor history and continuing to strike without apology. We win a statewide $65,000 minimum wage for ESPs when organizing across the state is so strong, the legislature knows that we could shut it down if we wanted to. I have the skills, ambition, and experience to help us win. I chaired Andover's Workplace Safety Action Campaign and helped us win those 207 HVAC repairs. I led a 19-month living wage campaign that built the foundation for our successful strike, where ESPs, including my mom, won a $40,000 starting wage, 12 weeks paid parental leave, and more. And while I didn't listen to my mom's words of caution, she has taught me a lot about tenacity, about staying strong through hard times, and about doing what we must for those we love. And we both have learned that we don't have to struggle alone. So let's come together, fight, and win the world we deserve. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. So, friends, the candidates you just heard from, all the candidates you just heard from, are vying for seats for which all delegates will vote. All delegates vote in the election for MTA president, vice president, and the at-large board and executive committee seats. Now we're going to hear from candidates for specific regional and district seats and seats on the retired members committee. We have two candidates for Executive Committee Region A. Only delegates from Region A will vote in this election. And first up is Giselle Richards-Genesi.
Thank you, Matt. Hello, union siblings. My name is Giselle Richards-Genesi, and I'm a 13-year veteran educator in Springfield, thus a proud member of the Springfield Education Association. Throughout my career, I've remained committed to strengthening the Springfield Education Association and ensuring it reflects the voices, needs, and experiences of all members. I am currently running to fill the Region A seat on the MTA Executive Committee, currently held by my LCA colleague, Cedric Cunningham, who has endorsed me to serve once his tenure ends. I respectfully seek your support as well. If elected, I will bring the same commitment and values to the MTA that I have utilized in my tireless years of service and involvement on the SCA Executive Board leadership. In this capacity, I have helped build our union, from leading building-wide initiatives to supporting our educators, winning strong contracts, including our current contracts, fighting for educators' rights, and guarding them against rogue administrators. I have worked with other members to strengthen our schools and communities and will in turn utilize tried and true strategies to help fortify Region A's voice in the MTA and create stronger connections between Region A locals. Unions are most powerful when they reflect the voices, experiences, and leadership of all members. Our collective strength comes from listening to one another, engaging in open, constructive dialogue, and working collaboratively towards solutions that uplift educators and the communities we serve. I am deeply concerned about the direction of the MTA and the impact it is having on some of our locals. I believe in an MTA that is democratic, member-led, and rooted in transparency, collaboration, and mutual respect. However, there's a growing perception among members that elements of decision-making have become more centralized, with slates and positions sometimes developed in advance of broader member engagement. This has raised important questions about how we ensure meaningful participation and democratic practices at all levels of our union. Moving forward, it is essential that we strengthen local governance structures and create space for diverse perspectives. Leadership and committee appointments should reinforce this work and help build stronger locals across the association. I look forward to seeing you at the annual meeting and earning your support and vote. Together, we can build an MTA that prioritizes inclusive democratic unionism for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Giselle.
You're
Next
welcome.
up is Declan Kennan.
My name is Declan Kennan. I'm an ELL teacher at Springfield Central High School. I'm an elected member of the Springfield Education Association Executive Board and co-chair of the SEA Member Organizing Committee. I was a contract action team lead in my building of 180 teachers during our recent contract campaign. I've also built a rapid response team in my building to protect our immigrant students from the threat of ICE in our community. My vision is a majority of MTA members mobilizing into the most powerful force for progressive change in the Commonwealth. But that will not come from the EC down to members. It must come from members, from you, organizing your workplace. From the bottom up, local organizing will grow the power to defeat authoritarianism at the workplace and in government. Sometimes that starts with t-shirts. SEA just put in an order for t-shirts through a PR&O grant. We don't underestimate the impact that small displays of solidarity can have when building power. A vote for me ensures that PR&O grants are funneled to your local in the way you need to continue the fight. I will also organize stronger regional bargaining councils in the West so that locals can strategize collectively on how to win contracts that lift up their neighbors and finally bring the strike wave out West. My mission is to organize Western Mass educators to fight and win their local battles. The battle in Western Mass is even larger than local. Governor Healy's proposed aid for rural school districts on next year's budget falls $40 million short of what's necessary to maintain level services. This will mean further regionalization, more strain on transportation costs, cut positions, and less local control and involvement in school operations. We need a full-fledged campaign to maintain dignified schools and jobs for educators in the West. Finally, educators in Holyoke are battling for a dignified contract against cynical district leadership. Their march for a fair contract is happening on Friday, May 1st in downtown Holyoke. Educators in Western Mass showing up on May Day is showing up for Holyoke and for yourself. And also a shout out to educators in South Hadley. It was a disappointing result last night in the tax override vote, but the fight's not over. It never is. I'm proud to be running on the slate of educators for a democratic union and alongside Matt Bach and Deb Gesualdo, local leaders who have experience organizing for real power, and the candidates at the top of the ticket with the proper analysis and skill set to reclaim public education from the grips of oligarchs and the managerial class. Billionaires and the politicians at their disposal are taking resources from your classroom to fund wars, to fund masked militias, and to make themselves wealthier. You and your coworkers have the capacity to fight back. Vote for me to make sure you have the support to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Declan. Next, we have the race for Executive Committee Region C. Only delegates from Region C will vote for this seat. And one candidate is with us, Katie Lecaro.
My name is Katie Lecaro, a granddaughter and daughter of immigrants from Ecuador who instilled in me a value
She was at the thing.
of giving back to society, ensuring the next generation has given greater opportunities than we did. I am standing before you today to ask for your vote as I seek re-election to the MTA Executive Board Region C. For the last 19 years, I have had the privilege of serving our community as a special education teacher in the town of Plymouth. I am not just standing here as a candidate, I am standing here as your colleague. I know the dedication it takes to show up for our students every day and I know the challenges we face when our systems don't show up for us. My commitment to exceptional public education is absolute, from our youngest learners in pre-K through our students in higher education. This includes fighting for the critical initiative of universal free public childcare, because we know that a strong education must begin at the very start. But our advocacy cannot stop at the classroom door. I believe it is essential for MTA to endorse candidates who are unapologetic, pro-education, and pro-union. However, endorsement is only the first step. We must hold these leaders accountable to the promises they make to our members and our communities. At the heart of my platform is workplace dignity. To me, that isn't just a phrase, it is a necessity to mean livable wages that reflect our expertise and the rising cost of living, affordable healthcare and housing so we can live in the communities we serve, social, emotional, and physical safety in our buildings for every student and staff member so they can reach their full potential, and above all, unwavering respect for all educators. My goal is to continue fostering the unity and collaboration needed to build a powerful union and school system. When we stand together, we don't just improve our working condition, we ensure a better, more equitable future for the next generation. If re-elected, I promise to continue actively listening. Your classroom experience are the most valuable insight we have. I am truly here to learn from you. Foster inclusion. I am committed to creating spaces where our diverse perspective sharpen our critical thinking by bringing together members from across our region. We can continue to work meaningfully and collaboratively, build confidence, and want to ensure every member feels empowered to speak up, share their ideas, and contribute to the collective success. I'm ready to keep doing this work. I ask for your vote for the MTA Executive Board Region C. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Katie. Next, we have candidates for the retired member seat on the executive committee. Of course, only the retired delegates will vote in this election. There are 4 candidates. Those who are with us tonight, first let's hear from Ruth Allen.
Hello, I am Ruth Allen. During my 21 years as an educator, I was an active member of MTA, including 2 terms on the board of directors, 9 years as a delegate to the NEARA, and as a member of the Resolutions Committee for several years. I was a regular delegate to annual meeting, and I've continued to be a delegate to annual meeting as a retiree. I'm running for the executive committee because I believe retirees and the MTA can build a better, mutually beneficial relationship. Unfortunately, during the majority of my time on the MTA Board of Directors, priorities changed. New leadership, which was supposed to empower rank and file leadership, gave way to what I believe was a misguided emphasis on promoting the agenda of a core group who grew increasingly strident in their dismissal of many of MTA's longtime priorities, while dismissing the ideas of anyone who did not agree with those priorities. While we certainly need to continue to advocate on many important issues, I believe, especially in the world we are living in now, I believe we need to be more responsive to issues that impact all educators and their students. There is indeed a great amount of collective wisdom among MTA retired members, but I believe relying on the wisdom warriors, we are using a very small piece of it. I've heard from many retirees that they feel unheard and undervalued. They would love to return to having in-person meetings, whether social gatherings or informational meetings, or a combination of both. Organizing is, of course, always important, but there is so much more we could accomplish. A once-a-year celebration is simply not enough. I have much more I'd like to share with you all, and I hope you will contact me with questions or suggestions at my email or through Facebook. There is so much more that we can do by coming together and sharing our collective wisdom while we continue the great work that has been done by and for retirees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Next up is Barbara Mataloni.
Good evening, delegates. My name is Barbara Mataloni, and I'm running for the retired seat on MTA's executive committee in order to build on the record of success that we've had in our union most recently. 12 years ago, delegates to the MTA Annual Meeting voted for a new direction for the MTA, one that empowers rank and file leadership, organizes to confront power in our schools and in the State House, and raises expectations for what educators, students, and our communities can demand and win. I was fortunate to be able to help lead this transformation in my 4 years as MTA president and as part of Educators for a Democratic Union, the caucus that supported my candidacy and has been leading the way in reimagining our union and promoting our members' vision for our schools and colleges. After terming out, I went to work for Labor Notes, a national project that assists rank and file union members in building more democratic, member-led unions. That work taught me a lot and reinforced some of what I learned as MTA president, especially that, as is written in the Labor Notes book, Democracy is Power, working people are fit to run our own affairs. I have maintained my connection to the MTA through EDU by talking with countless retirees, leading workshops, and attending annual meeting. I am moved by how, in these perilous times, younger members are committing to the union and to public education as the bedrock of democracy. As we see in the slate that I'm running with, there are a host of committed, thoughtful, and inspiring young people who are stepping up to lead their locals and to lead the MTA. As retirees, we face issues relative especially to a dignified retirement, COLAs and healthcare chief among these. And I pledge to fight to make these priorities for our union. As retired members also, though, we bring knowledge, experience, and a breadth of perspective that are crucial contributions to the growth of our union. These contributions are more critical than ever as we face ruinous underfunding, rising healthcare costs, dysregulated students, and the attacks on educator autonomy perpetuated through the assaults on academic freedom, AI, and canned curriculum. When we organize for power, we can secure a just and liberatory future for ourselves, for the younger people behind us, and for our students and communities. I hope you will help me bring us, retirees and the whole of MTA, together to pursue this vision by voting for me for MTA retired representative to the Executive Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Now, there are two candidates vying for the District 18G seat on the Board of Directors. Only the delegates representing 18G will vote. One of the candidates is with us tonight, Allison LeBron.
Thank you. My name is Allison LeBron, and I am running for District Director for Region 18G. I became interested in union work during the COVID shutdown in 2020. I realized that the concerns of educators were not being heard or valued by many district administrators, elected officials, and even parts of the parent community. I began forming what eventually became Newton's Parent Educator Collaborative. Over 5 years, we built a mailing list of 1,000 and an active Facebook community of 3,000 members. I honed the important ability to translate educator concerns into language that elected officials and community members could understand and act on. I also learned how to develop the type of trusting relationships where real change happens. These are skills that will be highly valuable should I be elected to the MTA Board of Directors. My interest in union work solidified during the Newton teachers' strike in 2023. Witnessing the collaboration, unity of purpose, and mutual respect that took place during the strike was transformational. I experienced the power of a union where 2,000 individuals worked seamlessly and without ego towards a common goal, improving working and learning conditions in Newton Public Schools. I recently began attending MTA Board of Director meetings. I expected to experience the same collaboration, mutual respect, and unity of purpose. What I've encountered is the exact opposite. A small group of directors control the agenda of the meetings. The items on the agenda don't often relate to teacher working conditions, particularly not the working and learning conditions of elementary and middle school educators and students. Diverse viewpoints are neither sought out nor respected. This is particularly true of the perspectives of minority members. This lack of respect was glaringly obvious at a board meeting I attended last December, where many Black, Hispanic, Latino, Jewish, and Puerto Rican board members spoke about the insensitivity they experienced from their board of director colleagues. If I am elected to the board of directors, my goal would be to change the culture of the MTA to one where all members of the union feel valued and included. I'd like to shift the focus of the board to matters that are relevant to all educators: fully funded schools, fair contracts, respect for the teaching profession. I am running for district director because I believe the MTA is not living up to its potential. I have a track record of bringing people with diverse perspectives together to work collaboratively. I'd like to bring these skills to the MTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And last but not least, every year, 4 seats on the Retired Members Committee are up for election at annual meeting, voted on by the retired delegates. There are 7 candidates this year for the 4 seats to be elected. Of those with us tonight, the first candidate is Rick Last.
Hi, everybody. My name's Rick Last, and I'm proud to be running for re-election to the Retired Members Committee. I spent 28 years in the classroom in Holyoke, Amherst, Northampton before retiring in 2013. The past 4 years, I've had the honor of serving on the RMC, Retired Members Committee, and the last 2 years as co-chair. And I'm truly proud of what we've accomplished together. We just didn't talk, we acted. We built a successful speaker series that have brought retirees together year after year. We created a mentoring program supporting teachers of color. We formed a committee dedicated to ESP retirees. We played an important role in major campaigns, including Question 2. We helped grow the Wisdom Warriors into a powerful, organized force who support active members. And we fought for a dignified retirement, taking on WEP, GPO, the Social Security, and pushing for fair health insurance and demanding increases to our COLA. This is what collective action looks like. But I'm not running just to celebrate the past. I'm running because the stakes could not be higher. Education is under attack. Political battles are now inside our schools. Educators, students, and school boards are in the crosshairs. Curriculum is being challenged. Efforts toward racial equity are being undermined. Meanwhile, struggles for climate justice, immigrant justice are shaping our students' lives every day. This is not a moment for silence or stepping back. This is a moment to stand up. I served as a delegate for MTA Annual Meeting, helping recruit and organize retirees. I helped found the Western Mass branch of the Wisdom Warriors and now serve as his regional coordinator, standing shoulder to shoulder with active educators. I'm also an active member of the statewide immigration committee, continuing the work of justice beyond the classroom. For me, this isn't new. It's been my life work, organizing for labor rights, racial justice, and social justice. That's what I'll continue to bring to the RMC: experience, energy, and the belief that retirees are not on the sidelines. We are an essential part of the union. I will keep fighting to ensure every retiree's voice is heard. MTA is strongest when we act together and we discover our potential. I'm Rick Last, and I would be honored to have your vote for Retired Members Committee to continue the great work.
Thank you, Rick. Next, we will hear from Kathy Greeley.
Hello. Can you see me? There we are. Hi, my name is Kathy Greeley, and I'm asking for your vote for the Retired Members Committee. I retired 8 years ago after nearly 4 decades in the public schools, mostly in Cambridge, as a middle school humanities teacher and a K-8 literacy coach. I've served on the RMC for 4 years, and I'm currently a co-chair along with my good friend and comrade Rick Last, who you just heard. I want to be on this committee because I believe that retirees have been an undertapped political force. public education, and the people who work in our schools are clearly under attack. As retirees, we have the time, energy, experience, and wisdom to fight for our profession to be treated with dignity and respect. While I've been on the Retired Members Committee, we have been actively working to involve and engage our comrades in organizing. We have started multiple subcommittees, some of which Rick just talked about, but including Wisdom Warriors, retirees working against high-stakes testing, our racial and social justice mentoring program. We've also started 3 relatively new committees that we're excited about, one for dignified retirement, one for our retired ESPs, and one around expanding our retiree membership, which is being led by Ora Gladstone, who's also a candidate running again for the RMC. We're in our 3rd year of our monthly speaker series. We've been working to revise and improve the website for retirees, and we are organizing our very first Retiree Day at Summer Conference in July in Amherst. We may not have billions of dollars that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos do, but we have people power, and we need to organize that power to fight back, to protect our public school system and our very democracy. We have seen that when we unite together and fight back, we win. Fair Share Amendment, Student Opportunity Act, Question 2, ending MCAS as a grad requirement, WEP GPO, and we've won an unprecedented number of strikes that have truly improved the lives of our educators in those communities. We must also join in coalition around other critical issues facing our democracy: voting rights, climate change, academic freedom, racial and economic justice for all, and more. We can work on these different struggles on our own, but if we fight together, we win. I want to be on the Retired Members Committee to help make that happen. My name is Kathy Greeley, and I hope you will vote for me one more time for the RMC. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Next up is Ora Gladstone.
I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry to interrupt. We missed a candidate.
Okay.
Rafael More Arasso, and Kathy speaking on his behalf. Sorry to interrupt.
Got it. Thank you very much. My apologies. Yes, Rafael More Arasso and Kathy, go ahead. Speak on behalf of Rafael, if you would.
Okay. I'm back. That's not me, but so I am going to speak on behalf of Rafael More Arasso. I am a resident of Medford, Massachusetts, and I am seeking re-election to the MTA RMC committee. I have been an American citizen since 1983 after immigrating from Colombia in 1967, a journey that has deeply shaped my commitment to public service and community. I am currently an emeritus professor at UMass Lowell, where I served for 23 years as a member of the MTA MSP Local. During that time, I was actively engaged in union work, including 5 years as a grievance representative for my local, advocating for fairness and due process for my colleagues. Since 2018, I have had the honor of serving on the RMC. I have also represented the RMC on the MTA Environmental Health and Safety Committee since 2020, working to ensure that the voices and needs of retirees are included in critical health and safety discussions. In 2025, I was proud to become a mentor in the RMC mentorship program, supporting and guiding fellow members. If re-elected, I will continue to build on this work by supporting all current RMC initiatives, with a particular focus on advancing health and safety advocacy through the MTA EH&S committee and strengthening our mentorship program. I remain committed to serving retirees with dedication, experience, and a strong voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, on behalf of Rafael More Araso. Now, I believe next up is Ora Gladstone.
Thanks, Max. I appreciate this opportunity to say a couple of words about why I'm running for a second term on the Retired Members Committee. I am deeply involved in almost all of the RMC's 7-ish current project, either as an active committee member, co-chair of sorts, or initiator. I respond to Wisdom Warrior calls to action, and I show up to help lobby at the State House where, with Kathy Greeley as our absolutely tireless leader, we are working really hard to ensure that our statewide win to eliminate MCAS isn't replaced with other destructive high-stakes tests. I'm also on the committee led by Maureen Posner that's driving the creation of a friendlier and more accessible retiree webpage. And while Dale Melcher is our front person, all of us on the RMC put our heads together to create an impressive First Wednesday speaker series, now going into its 4th year. So while I'm part of these committees led by remarkable RMC activists, I have primarily focused on our racial justice mentoring project for new teachers of color. With Phyllis Neufeld as the main driver, I have been involved since the inception of the program and am a central contributing member of this group that is building pairs of mentors and mentees of color in a hands-on drive to keep new teachers of color in the MTA. The support new teachers get from retired teachers of color can make all the difference. And more recently, I have brought together a group of us to figure out how we can, in the most deliberate, direct, and activist ways, increase the number of retired MTA union members. The falling off of membership is a serious issue, and we are determined to reverse that trend by working very closely as a group and with MTA employees who are themselves working on union membership. I'm very grateful to be part of our diverse, hardworking, and mutually supportive RMC. There's a great deal I hope to continue working on so that at the end of my next 4 years, I can clearly see continued progress on our many initiatives. And with Kathy and Rick as our co-chairs and the RMC committee members working together collaboratively, I sincerely believe we'll move forward. I, of course, hope that you'll support my ability to continue all that I'm involved with. I'm Ora. Thanks so much, and in solidarity.
Thank you, Ora. And our next candidate is Tracy Pratt.
Tracy, you're muted.
Oh, no, you had it right this second. You're still muted. Just click it once again. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. Picture it, Queens, 1973, New York. A 7-year-old black girl finally got the ultimate box of crayons, the 64-pack with the sharpener on the back. Her favorite color, pink. But imagine to her dismay when she opened that box and every single crayon was pink. I'm Tracy Pratt, and that imaginary box of crayons is exactly why I'm here to ask for your vote to serve on the Retired Members Committee. I retired on June 30th, 2025 at the age of 59 and signed up for the MTA retired as an MTA retired lifetime member 3 days later at the NEARA in Portland, thanks to some very supportive fellow retirees. I've been a teacher for over 25 years in Cambridge and in Washington, D.C. public schools. Why me? Because I bring a different color to the crayon box. Many of our retired members are older than I am. That is not a problem. That's wisdom that I highly respect. But I retired a little younger than some other people, and that means that my needs, interests, and concerns may look different than many other current committee members. I am also an African American woman, and I suspect that adds another shade to the committee and to that crayon box. Since retiring, I've stepped into a new role, caregiver for my 82-year-old mother. She is not a former educator, but she is a retiree, and let me tell you, Her needs are not my needs. Her health care looks different. Her housing security looks different. Financial planning looks different. And yet, our committee needs to be able to advocate for all retirees across generations, races, and circumstances. That's why we need a box of many colors. The Retired Members Committee safeguards, benefits, coordinates with district delegates, lobbies for public education, and gets pro-education candidates elected. I've done all of that in my career as a union activist, a building leader, a cultural proficiency trainer, and a published author. I also know how to organize, how to listen, how to fight for what's fair. I retired at 59, but now I am a full-time seminary student at Boston University, a caregiver, and a lifelong public school and social justice activist. I am a different color crayon, and I'm ready to serve. So I'll end it this way, the way that I began. You don't want all the same crayons in the crayon box. Vote Tracy Pratt for Retired Members Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And that concludes our candidate speeches. And I really thank all the candidates for running and for being with us yesterday and today for our 2 pre-convention meetings. And as I said last night, this is a sign of a strong Democratic Union when there are lots of candidates and there's competitive elections. That's what we want, so that the members can see different ideas, different visions for the union in the next couple of years. So really glad that so many people are running. The full candidate list, including those candidates elected by waiver for offices I didn't mention tonight, can be found on the certified candidate list in your printed packet and posted online at, of course, massteacher.org/annual meeting. Candidates also have the opportunity to submit videos of their speeches. If a candidate has submitted a video, we will post that to the website as well, and we'll share that link in the chat. So, my friends, I thank you for being with us tonight and being at the pre-convention meeting, and I thank especially the staff for leading a flawless meeting, only marred by a couple of mistakes that I made. So I really appreciate the staff putting this all together so well. If we could maybe repost the May Day meeting tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, really so important. And to get inspired there, we will actually have the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union, the mighty Chicago Teachers Union that has inspired so much of what we've done in the MTA, Jackson Potter, who's really one of the leaders of the May Day Strong movement. He will be there at the beginning to let us know what's going on nationwide and how we are going to play such an important role as well. And then I also wanted to be sure that you had seen, maybe we can quickly post again the link from the beginning about the fiscal crisis action teams. As I mentioned at the start, the House put out its budget. So we are right in the middle of the budget season. And I know every district is looking to what the state will do. We had some wins today, at least in this initial part, on minimum aid, on money for those districts that lost a lot of enrollment due to ICE terror acts and other flight of students. But we have a long way to go to get anywhere close to what we need for our schools and colleges. So please join that as well. All right. And other than that, please contact us directly with questions as you prepare for annual meeting. And otherwise, we will see you on May 8th at the Heinz Auditorium in Boston. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.